Hey, it's Paul from howtonetwork.com here. I often get asked by students how they can have a home Cisco rack. So I'm going to cover that, but also a lot of other options, and then I'm going to end with a recommendation if you're studying for CCNP or CCNA. Now I'm aware they're changing, but from what I've seen, you're still going to need to have hands-on experience, which is a good thing. So without further ado, if you've never heard of me, then if not, why not? No, I've written several Cisco books starting in 2005 or 6. I think my first one was down here actually, Cisco Ccna Simplified, which is in its 5th edition. And then my latest range are the 101 Labs books. I actually worked for Cisco TAC for a while in the UK. I started teaching in my free time in 2002, and then a full-time bit after that. And I've written quite a few IT books. And I started out knowing nothing, so you're in good company if you don't know anything. My main website, which I'll mention in a bit because there's some racks on there which you can look at, is howtonetwork.com. That's got about 30 IT certifications streaming off videos there. 101labs.net is purely hands-on coaching and training for IT exams, and then in60days.com is for the CCNA. If you like my videos, please subscribe, and there's a bell which would be great if you could press the bell so you get notified when next videos are coming. So this is really important now. You must have hands-on experience, so you can actually you can learn to fly a plane just by piloting simulators. You can buy simulator time, and with the help of obviously autopilots and all this kind of stuff, you could learn to fly a plane. However, pilots have to have so many hours on an actual plane with a captain before they can fly and qualify. So it's the same. Now for IT and for Cisco, around 50% of your exam marks are for the practical part. This is coming into CompTIA, which is why I created 101labs.net. You're quizzed on your practical knowledge and tested. So you'll configure emulators for Cisco routers or switches. You'll have to investigate problems with various show commands, and then you'll have to fix something. So one router can't connect to another router, and you'll log onto one or both. You could have a switch in the middle somewhere as well, and have to fix the problem. And the only way to learn how to do that is by doing some hands-on configuration. Also in technical interviews, you'll often be sitting in a little office and there'll be a connection somewhere to a device which will give you access to a series of Cisco routers and switches, and then you'll be expected to configure that. So you're going to look pretty silly if you can't do it, because then it's going to be part of your job. So I'll go through your main options. There's probably a few of the weird ones. GNS3 is really popular, packet tracer, router simulators, remote live racks, and then your own home rack. So GNS3, the website's down the bottom there. It emulates live equipment, so it does everything that live equipment would do if you were connected to it remotely or had a live rack at home. It's just a platform for you to run live Cisco code, and it supports a whole other bunch of vendors and equipment as well. Now it runs Cisco iOS. You have to provide, this is the biggest question, people download it and wonder why it's not working. These are just a couple of devices that have been loaded by somebody here. So this is just an image of a router, but when you click on a button, I think it's this one here, it will open up a terminal window and you'll configure that router, and the same for the other router. But you have to provide the iOS because this is licensed to Cisco. There was talk of them providing student versions, but that hasn't happened. So GNS3 is free to download. The supports most services and protocols. This is limited by the iOS. I didn't actually say this, but iOS is, if you go to cisco.com and you go to the feature navigator, if you want to configure some weird service or protocol, you would need to check the feature navigator supports it. Now for most CCNA stuff and CCNP, you'll just have a basic IP services iOS. I don't really have time to cover it here, but the generally available iOS versions will support most of the stuff you need for CCNA and CCNP. Very limited switching capability. Now they were sold, this is what you click on to load a switch. They were kind of saying it's going to be supporting all switches. It doesn't. So when you're trying to do spanning tree and a lot of layer 2 stuff, then it won't support it. So you're going to be a bit stuck when you're coming to your layer 2 stuff. Also, it's pretty tricky to run inside a virtual machine. I downloaded the latest GNS3, tried to run it in a virtual machine for a whole bunch of reasons on my home computer, and it didn't work very well. And it turns out the virtual platform, you had to get a legacy version. Now it didn't run very well in VirtualBox at all, and then VMware. You can Google it yourself, but look at the version of VMware that works best, and it's an older version for GNS3. Packet tracer. Just go to cisco.com or Google the term packet tracer, Cisco packet tracer. It will take you to a page. You'll just create a free account. There's some training videos as well, and you can watch the how-to videos on how packet tracer works. If you also go to 101labs.net, there's a resources page, and I think for CCNA and for Network Plus, I've got a video on there showing you how to install packet tracer and get it working. This simulates equipment, so all these devices you can see here running in Cisco iOS. There's a switch there. It looks like there's a core switch there. Can't see any routers, and the PCs aren't actual devices, and they're not actually running iOS, but it's a pretty close approximation because Cisco own the code. So packet tracer is perfect for CCNA. Do not use it for CCNP. It just will not give you all of the features and functions that you need. And it supports around 90%. So I can't remember off the top of my head. There's some technologies that aren't supported. I think maybe ether channels and some other things. The other thing is your output is different. So people do my labs, and things don't quite look right, or the output isn't quite the same. It's because it's not actual equipment. You would need to use GNS3 or actual equipment to get exactly the same results as you would on live equipment, obviously. Router simulator, you can download a software. It's like a facsimile. It's an emulation of, or simulation, sorry, of actual Cisco equipment. You have to pay, and it's not very cheap. I think it's around 200. You've got very limited commands, so you've got maybe 20 different labs you can go through, and you have to type certain commands out in order to get it to work. It's really fiddly, and because of the other options available, I don't recommend it. You can't create your own scenarios. Avoid is my opinion, because it's just going to be frustrating and a waste of time. Next thing is remote live racks, which in my opinion is the best option. I'm going to come back to this later. This is actually my live racks on my website. There's the live rack 1 here. There's live rack 2 here. You can see there's 4 switches here and 4 routers, and I think these are spare, so don't worry about that. And in the middle is the server where you can log on, you create your account and do your timetable for accessing. Rack rental companies such as INE are probably the biggest one. They only support, to my knowledge, CCIE level topology. So many routers, many switches, and it's too complex. It takes a long time to work out how it all works. Cisco are offering a live rack product. It's not exactly live rack, it's Cisco Viral. Pretty expensive. It's $200 and you only get 60 hours which is probably what you need for CCNA. Now, howtonetwork.com or 101labs.net, these have got my live racks. They're actually free to members. One of the websites is $20 a month, and one is lifetime. It's lifetime, and it's 147 unless you've got a code from one of my books, but that's one-off payment for life. But then you get free access to the equipment, which is available 24/7. Home racks, probably easiest option is to get a kit off somewhere. You cable it all up yourself. It's available all the time because it's running from home. You can buy a kit and then sell it when you're done. Now, it normally comes with a Cisco IOS, which is the software that runs the commands and devices bundled on it. So I just found one here. I just did a search for Cisco rack, I think it was, or CCNA rack. And there's a company here that actually provides the rack that you screw the devices into. These are the little eyelets here. 3 switches here by the looks of it, and then 3 routers. And you can see the cables here. I don't know if they provide the cables, but I'll go into that. So this is $384 for this simple rack, and it looks like it's suitable just for CCNA, and you can add more equipment later if you want to do CCNP. So for CCNA level, you need a minimum of 2 switches. The model that's tested in the exam is the 2960. I did a quick search just for a 2960 basic model, $39. So you could buy a couple of those, pretty affordable. If you live in America, it's easy. UK easy. Other countries, sometimes you've got to pay shipping, which is really expensive. Minimum of 2 routers. Probably could do with 3, to be honest, and it needs to have serial and Ethernet capability for doing all of your labs. Now, iOS is the version, is the software, and it has a version number. Tested in the exam is version 15 dot something, they don't say. You can get away with 12.1 or 12.2 or something like that, so don't worry too much. And you could get away with a 2950, which is probably around $10 now, but for the sake of $40, I wouldn't worry too much. This is my suggested topology. This is actually CCNP level, but it's available to the CCNA students. So what I've basically got here, there's a router which all my other routers can connect into this way. Now this offers frame relay. It's technically tested in the exam because of the it's called NBMA, non-broadcast multi-access. So this lets you test those commands and that type of networking. And then I've got a couple of switches here. I think I've got 3550s here, and then up here also. But this is my topology for CCNA and CCNP, and obviously if you just want to spend some time configuring 2 routers, or just 2 switches, or just connect a router to a switch, you can do that easy. Cabling, this is where it's pretty handy to do live equipment because you can practice doing your cabling up. You'll need Ethernet cables, so these are your LAN cables, which hopefully you've read about in any study guide you're reading. You need serial cables, which are these. Your serial cables are for your WAN connection, so HDLC, PPP, this kind of thing. The type of cable I recommend, you can Google this DTC to DTE, and this is the type of cable that will come up, and normally made in China, and they've got 60 pins. So you can see here, this is 60 pins in total, and it's got this type of shape. Now the shape isn't very good, so you can actually accidentally plug it in upside down and bend these cables. So just do double check. And what happens is one end is your DTE, one end is your DCE. This end needs a clock rate, which if you're studying CCNA you would have read about hopefully. Modules. So all routers now are modules. If you look over here, the interfaces are all soldered onto the motherboard, so you couldn't do anything. But now these are blank modules. These have got a blank plate on, and you undo the screws and you screw in whatever you want for WAN, Ethernet, etc. And there can be bigger slots as well, and these slots have got modules that you can plug in. I won't go into much detail here because there's other videos about that. So you'll need to, for CCNA level, you'll need to slot in something for a wide area network or an Ethernet, or if you've bought a kit, it will already come with it. So just check the documentation and email the seller, the vendor. They normally give you DVDs and other goodies to show you how to get it all set up. You'll need to get a WIC 1T or a WIC 2T usually. There are other interfaces available, so just do a bit of reading or check videos. So this is a WIC 1T, and obviously as you can see, there's one interface there. So on this router here, you would plug in one of your WIC 1Ts. On your other router, you plug into the other one, and then obviously you would plug in your cable between the two and then configure your wide area networking. This is a WIC 2T, and you can see it's got it's what's called a smart serial. So you would need a different type of cable, not this big 60-pin cable that you saw earlier. You would need a smart serial cable. Again, speak to your vendor or check on eBay for the smart serial cable type. Now, easiest thing to do, connect to your devices. You're obviously going to need to have a window on your PC or a Linux machine where you can configure the equipment. I should have mentioned, really, I've got it in other videos, but PuTTY is a piece of software that will give you a screen where you can connect your devices. So you generally, if you've got live equipment at home, you'll use a console cable that you'll need to buy. That will normally come with your kit as well if you're buying a kit. Normally coloured blue for some reason, and it's normally flat, which is why people call it a flat cable. You'll connect to a port on your router or switch, either via a USB adapter, or a DB9 end. Now I've got other videos. If you look here, I've got a video which I'll put in the description to save time, how to connect to a router or switch with the USB cable. You can also use a terminal server. So I've got a video here which I'll put a link to, configure an access server. What happens is you plug your PC here with the cable. It goes into what's called an access server, and you can see they've got some weird connectors here. You connect to that, and that will connect to multiple devices. And what happens is you've got one window open on your PC instead of multiple windows. And the other thing is, normally you would need to connect to, say, 8 devices. So you would need to have 8 console cables, or you keep unplugging your cable and then plugging it into the next router or switch, and that actually wears the interfaces out because they're not designed to be used. So I'll put a link to the videos anyway, and I recommend you watch that to see what your option is. Cisco IOS is the software that runs the switches and routers. You can actually buy one from Cisco for your particular model. It costs thousands, is the only problem. Pre-installed on routers or switches if you buy them from eBay or buy them used. Now, Cisco IOS is actually installed in Packet Tracer, but it's a type of Cisco IOS. It's not the actual iOS. There are illegal download sites. So if you did a Google for Cisco iOS download, whatever, it would show you various illegal download sites. Now, obviously, for the record, I can't recommend you doing that because it's illegal and Cisco own the copyright. Unofficially, Cisco probably not too bothered about people using older versions of iOS if they're students using it at home. although that's my opinion and not Cisco's opinion. You will get your Cisco IOS pre-installed on eBay racks. It's licensed to the particular device. You can see they've got a switch iOS, IP services 12.250. That's fine for CCNA level. On their routers, they've got this is another switch, a 2950. On their routers, it's saying iOS 15.7, which is great. It's some version of 15 iOS. It's got gigabit Ethernet interfaces also, so you would connect these to your switch. Alright, so here's my advice. Since you're listening to me, I guess you want to know what I think. My personal advice is use GNS3 for all routing using NAT, access list, DHCP, etc. etc. Use Packet Tracer if you want to play with switching and if you're a beginner, get some confidence, and then use live remote racks. So this is your live hands-on experience for about 20 hours. The reason I say all this is your home racks are going to use electricity. You're going to need to spend, say, $350, which is probably a lot of money to most people. You're going to use your power at home. You're going to power up 5 or 6 devices. You're going to find somewhere to put it, and then unless you've got an office, you've got to put it away again so the kids don't break it or your dog doesn't jump on it. And then you've got to sell it again, which means you've got to pack it all up and post it. So it's a bit of a pain. I just wanted to quickly show you my, I've got live Cisco racks. There's a video. If you go to howtonetwork.com, under racks, it will take you to live Cisco racks. There's a video showing you how the racks work. Here's the topology. This is free to all members. Obviously, there's a subscription to be a member. And they're available 24/7, and I give you full training on how to access them from home. So I just wanted to show you that. There's a link at the bottom here to give you $1 access to, in fact, $1 access to the website here. If you go to howtonetwork.com, have a look around, and then go to this URL /YouTube. You get 30 days access for $1. Then it's $20 after that if you want to stay around. We do all the Cisco, Linux, Amazon cloud security training on the website, practice exams, live Cisco racks, support on the forum, career training, and we give you a load of exam strategy and coaching support. Right, so this is a long video, but I had a lot to cover. The other videos, I'll put a link in the bottom.